Hello, Red Foxes. Welcome to the 2024-2025 campaign for the men's rowing team. I'm excited to be back for my 10th year with Marist Rowing. And today we have a great agenda. I've got a quick preview of our freshman class, which is my biggest recruiting class since I've been in Marist. And probably one of the biggest recruiting classes that we've had. But before we dive into presenting our freshman class, I wanted to give a couple of reminders to the alumni and families of the team. And the main big reminder that I have today is our Marist Rowing Alumni Day and Family Day are coming up this coming Saturday, September 21st. It's always the third weekend in September. And we wanted to make sure that everyone knew they were invited and welcome to attend. And we wanted to encourage you to sign up if you're thinking about coming. Registrations are due by Monday, by the end of the day. And so I'll send out a couple reminders in the email, but I wanted to mention that to everyone. I'll also put a link at the bottom of this film and in the comments that you can click on in order to get to the registration site for the Alumni and Family Rowing Day. We hope that you'll join us. Also, this year, on the Monday following the Alumni Day, we'll have the second annual Bill Austin Memorial Golf Outing. And during that event, we're going to be commissioning one of our eights in Bill's name. And so I wanted to encourage anyone who wanted to get a game of golf in with a bunch of Marist rowers and other connections from Bill's family and friends and local supporters to please feel free to join in and sign up for the golf outing. I'll be there, and I know that a number of other important Marist Rowing alumni will be there. So please feel free to join us. I will attach a copy of that link as well to the comments here and at the top of the video. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and share our little presentation here about our freshmen. So just a moment. We're going to slideshow this so you guys can see it. And we'll start at the beginning. So this is our freshman class, the class of 2028. I'm really excited about this group, and a lot of thank yous in this process of putting this class together. The first and foremost is Josh Stratton, our assistant coach. Josh was instrumental with this group. He came to me at the beginning of last year and asked if he could jump in and help out on the recruiting end in developing our next class. And at least 50% of the athletes in this group are guys that Josh was actively involved in recruiting. He was a huge help, and I also really just appreciated his experience. I was a walk-on in college, and so Josh's experience in his past of having been a recruited athlete was really useful for a lot of the guys that we were talking to. So thank you, Josh, for all the hard work you did. Also, Sean Kaler, Marist Rower, class of 1990. Sean is our VP of Enrollment Management here at Marist, and Sean was a major part of helping us get this class. He is our admissions rep for men's and women's rowing, and we were able to work very closely with Sean, both on the admissions end and the financial end for our athletes and this group. So he had a big part to play in putting this class together. Also, Tiffany Karcher, who is in student financial services. Tiffany helps us on the need-based side of our financial aid. One of the kind of things that was happening behind the scenes this past year was that the federal government was redoing the FAFSA forms, which are the applications essentially that families put in to get need-based aid, both from the government and from the schools that they apply to. And a big kind of kudos to Tiffany and Sean and the whole admissions department, kind of predicted ahead of time that this process with the new FAFSA form was going to be a little bit of a disaster, which it indeed happened. And so we were hearing about as late as May and June that there were some schools that had not received information from their applicants' FAFSA forms. Marist went out of their way to build a separate form that every student that came in this past class could submit directly to the college to report their financial information. And the college literally individually offered every single student that came here before they even received their FAFSA information based on what the new FAFSA information was going to be. And so I'm sure that was not easy. That required a lot of effort and data input on the part of a lot of different people, but it was a huge difference maker for our class. So thank you to Tiffany and her department. I also wanted to thank the recruiting committee from the team. We have Matthew Wright, Nolan Libby, and Nick Fracasso, all from the class of 26, and then Tristan Wistuba from the class of 27, who work on a recruiting committee with Josh and I. The main thing that those guys do is act as an outlet for our recruits, and the recruits can reach out to them and talk to them. And they also take part in monthly meetings that we have online on Zoom with our recruits. We have some monthly like virtual open house events, and those guys do a fantastic job of being available, answering the questions that different athletes have, and they all have kind of a unique viewpoint and a unique experience. So it was really cool for them to help out, and we're thankful. And then I also wanted to mention that the members of the whole team were very helpful in the process, but in particular, the members of the class of 26 who were living in Foy C3 last year, which has become somewhat of a legendary apartment of rowers up on campus. Those guys hosted almost 100% of our student athletes over the course of the fall and the winter for official visits. There were some weekends that they had as many as 10 or 12 recruited athletes in their apartment with them at one time. There were guys sleeping on the floor, on sleeping mats, on couches, blow-up beds. They did an amazing job with the hosting part of recruiting, and I think that you see that in the size of the group that we were able to recruit. So these are some statistics of the class. We were able to get 24 student athletes this year. They came from 9 different states, mostly from New York. We got 7 from New York, but we also got 2 from Ohio, 2 from Virginia, 2 from Pennsylvania, 3 from Connecticut, 2 from New Jersey, and then 1 each from Oklahoma, Texas, and Massachusetts. So big thank you again to all those people who helped. This is a great group, came from all over the country. 5 of the 24 are coxswains, so a big recruiting class for coxswains, and then 19 oarsmen. They represent 16 different potential areas of study at Marist. The average height of the oarsman is 6'2", and the average weight of the oarsman is 185, and the average erg score that was recruited was a 637. So all very, very cool statistics. Again, when you look at the size of the group, it's pretty exceptional. I'm going to run through individual athletes now and try to give you a little story about each one or something that I know about each one. And just kind of give you an idea of where these kids are from and what they, what we hope for them as they move forward with Marist rowing. Our first athlete is Alexander Bittner. Alexander comes from Sag Harbor, New York, which is kind of the outer end of Long Island. He had only sculled before he came to Marist. And we talked to Alexander fairly late in the recruiting process, but he was very excited about Marist. And we were excited to be able to get him in. Sean worked with us really closely with Alexander to help make that happen. So we're excited to see what Alexander can do. He's been busy learning how to sweep, which is a big challenge, and doing a great job. So we're looking forward to what he has ahead of him. And Alexander is probably one of the strongest guys on the team. You can tell from his picture. He's pretty well built. Our weightlifting coach is already really impressed with him. So we hope that will pan out in the rowing world as well. So second, we have Jackson Bauer. Jackson comes from Burnt Hills Rowing up in the Albany area. And he's been working with Andy Sales, who was Marist class of 2012 and was also a coach at Marist for a while. So we were really excited to get Jackson and excited to be working with Andy. Jackson showed up at practice the other day wearing Andy's old Marist rowing vest. So that was pretty cool to see that connection. Jackson is 6'2", 175 pounds. He is probably one of the better technical athletes as far as his rowing technique. And we expect him to be a strong, lighter weight guy for the team. Jackson's gonna be working hard, and we'll see where he winds up this year. But we're really pleased with his progress so far. He is probably one of the more adaptable guys that we recruited this year. He can row well in almost any boat, in almost any seat, and so be kind of a utility man for the team. The next athlete, Mark Carguello. Mark comes from Manlius, New York. And so I was pretty excited to be recruiting Mark. Mark is my first athlete that I have recruited from my own alma mater, Fayetteville Manlius High School. And Mark rowed with the high school there and with the Syracuse Chargers during his time as a rower. Mark's a big guy. He's probably the biggest guy that we recruited in terms of, weight and height. And so we're excited to see what he has ahead of him. He has as one of his ambitions to break 6 minutes on the erg, and I totally think that if he sets his mind to it, he can. Mark is a biochemistry major, and we're looking forward to seeing what he does for us. He's going to be an engine room guy for sure. This is our first coxswain out of this group, Sam Karen. Sam is from Upper Arlington, Ohio, right near Cleveland. We met Sam a little bit late in the recruiting process. He actually was unaware that Marist had a rowing team, and he saw the team when we were down. He was on a visit at Stetson University, and Marist was on our winter training trip in Stetson. So Sam realized that we had a men's team, reached out to Coach Stratton. We had him come for a visit, and he fell in love with the school. So we're excited to have Sam. He has some experience working with U.S. rowing with the ODP team. And he's had some pretty competitive experiences in high school. So we're going to be excited to see what he has to offer. Big film and media production guy. Sam has already been super active putting together some video and media creations for us. So we'll be excited to be bringing along some of his media that he produces to you on the YouTube channel in the coming years. Nikolai Chang is from Virginia. We actually did not meet Nikolai during the process until pretty late, and Nikolai ran into Sean Kaler at an event in Virginia, and Sean put us in touch with one another, and we were able to bring Nikolai on. He was one of the last guys that we picked up at the very end of the recruiting process. Nikolai wrote at a small program at C.D. Hilton High School in Virginia. And so he's one of the multiple Virginia athletes that we got this year. So excited to see what he will bring to the table for us. Next athlete is Spencer Crumb. Spencer met with Coach Stratton at one of the races that Stratton attended last summer. And Spencer was a lightweight rower rowing with OKC River Sport from Oklahoma City. We were able to get him up for a visit last fall for a little while, and he really hit it off with the team and had a great time. I did not get a chance really to get to know Spencer much until this fall when he arrived on campus, but I can tell already he's going to be a lot of fun to work with as an athlete. He's got a great attitude and kind of keeps things fun around the boathouse for everyone. So we're looking forward to seeing what he will bring to the crew. Very similar athlete to Jackson Bauer. He's a smaller, lighter weight guy who's very technically savvy and is a guy who can scull and can sit in almost any seat in any boat and perform well. So he'll be a good utility man for us. Another coxswain, Evie Duffield. Evie is short for Evelyn. Evie came from Pittsburgh, where she rode with North Allegheny High School. Evie, another great coxswain that came from this group. Was fascinated to see her interest in F1 racing. That's pretty rare, so we'll see how that pans out for the crew. And we're enjoying working with Evie already. She the first day we sent her out, she was the first freshman coxswain that we sent out alongside 3 of our returning coxswains. And she jumped in and had a really great day right out of the gate, steering right on point. So we're excited to see where Evie will take us. Next, we have Jesse Hinkle. Jesse comes from Stonington Community Rowing and Stonington, Connecticut. Also Stonington High School rowing team. Jesse came along pretty late in the recruiting process as well. We had been talking pretty heavily with his teammate, Ethan. Ethan had committed to Marist already. And Jesse was kind of on the fence between a couple of schools, and we ended up convincing him to come take a look at Marist, and I think he really liked what he saw. And so we were able to convince him to join us here on the Hudson. Great guy, hard worker. We're excited to see where he gets to. Next, another coxswain, Nicholas Jopek. Nick is from Vienna, Virginia. He rode at James Madison High School. All these Virginia kids basically all row out of the same boathouse on Lake Occoquan. And so Jopek's one of those. James Madison High School rows out of that same boathouse where we were training last year for our spring trip. Came to us pretty early in the process. We liked his tapes and seemed like a great guy. And so he came on a visit last fall, and shortly after the visit was pretty active in pursuing Marist. So we're excited to have Nicholas on the team, another really fun-loving guy, and you can tell he just really loves being on the water, pretty competitive coxswain. And so we'll see what Nicholas can do for us. Dante, I'm not going to pronounce your last name because I'll probably butcher it, but Dante was a teammate of one of our class of 23 athletes, Joe, who also has an impossible last name, Wyrozemski. Joe rode with Dante in high school, and and can, talk to us about Dante a little bit. Dante's a pretty big guy. And I don't know if you can tell from his picture here, but his teammates are not nearly as big as him from his high school there in Kellenberg. He's from Franklin Square, New York, which is on Long Island, another Long Island school. And so we got to talking with Dante, and Dante, is probably a high potential guy for us. He's 6'4". He's a really tall guy, but he's only 165 pounds. So we'll be working with Dante to get some muscle on his big frame and finding some new speed while he's here at Marist. All right, Ethan King. I mentioned Ethan when we were talking about Jesse a moment ago. Ethan began talking to us pretty early in the process last fall. Big guy, 6'4", 185 pounds. He had only been rowing for a year at that point at Stonington Rowing in Connecticut. And after his visit, he basically became best friends with everybody on the team. And every time we would see him at a regatta, he would be hanging out at the trailer like he was already on the Marist rowing team. So that was kind of cool to see how quickly he jumped in and meshed with everybody. And so Coach Stratton and I pushed pretty hard to get Ethan here, and we're excited to see what he can do. But he's definitely, out of this group, one of the biggest cheerleaders for Marist, a guy who really fell in love with the program just right out of the gate. And also helped us to acquire his buddy Jesse to come with him. So cool to have two guys from the same high school program joining us at the same time. Next athlete, Charlie Latimer. So Charlie is one of a second pair of athletes who both came from the same high school this year, from Seton Hall Prep, which is in North Jersey. Charlie is another big guy, 6'4", 200 pounds. He's got some great leverage. He's been in a variety of seats so far since he's been here. Really inquisitive and intelligent athlete and rower. And so we're looking forward to seeing what Charlie will do for us. I'm guessing he'll be an engine room guy probably in the long run, but he also looks pretty good in stroke seat. He rows on port side most of the time, and so it'll be interesting to see where he pans out in the long run. All right, this is Reed Livingston. Reed actually came to visit on the perfect visit day last year. He came during the move-in day, freshman move-in day, and so he got to see kind of the crazy festival that Marist puts on for the freshman move-in day every year. Reed is from Chagrin Falls, Ohio, which is, again, right near Cleveland. He rowed at the Cleveland Foundry, which is a small junior rowing program right there in downtown Cleveland. Really cool spot, actually, if you're ever in the area. There are two clubs that row right in that area, and it's a very cool river. Very narrow with these big canal barges that come through. So a pretty unique place to row. Reed was part of a much smaller team. He rowed most of his career in a double or a pair. And so we're really excited to see what Reed looks like converting fully to sweep rowing and then being introduced to this much bigger team environment. He's already in the top 2 on the erg for us, him and another freshman. So we're very excited for the speed that he brings. He's a big guy, definitely an engine room guy. Probably will end up in 5 or 3 in one of these lineups. And he's going to be producing a lot of watts for us, and we're really excited about him joining us and looking forward to his career at Marist. Finn Lyons. Finn was one of our first signees. He came on our first recruiting trip last fall. Similar to Ethan, fell in love with the team, was in close contact with other guys on the team. We kept running into him at various regattas, and we could tell that he was really excited about the program and what we were preparing to do. Finn is from Holden, Massachusetts, and he rode at Worcester Academy in Worcester, Massachusetts. So again, coming from a small team, now jumping into this much bigger team, collegiate team environment, we're excited to see what he can make of that. All right. Anthony Proya is a coxswain from Don Bosco Prep. And we've been calling him AP. Anthony is great coxswain. We actually got to know him a little bit a year or two ago. He came up and helped us with a corporate rowing event that we were putting on at Marist for one of the planning committees for the college. We did a learn to row basically, and AP came up and coxed for us and did a good job. His father is part of one of the marketing departments at the college. And so, you know, nice to have a connection with a student and an employee. So we're very excited to have Anthony joining us. He's doing a great job so far. We'll see how he works out for the team. Will Shockley from Fairfield, Connecticut. Will comes from Saugatuck Rowing Club, which is a serious powerhouse rowing team. He rowed both in the stroke seat of the second varsity and the 2 seat, I believe, of their varsity 8 throughout the year last year. Will is one of those 2 highlight freshman rowers who came in who have jumped in and are top notch already right on the erg with Reed. And so the 2 of them have been pushing each other really hard, pushing some of the other freshmen and some of our upperclassmen really hard. You know, one of these rare athletes that he comes from a serious enough team that he really knows the drill already. He knows how to train really seriously, and he's got some strong technique. And similar to Charlie, I think Will would probably end up being an engine room guy, but he also may end up in a stroke seat type of position. But definitely an important leader in the freshman class, and we're really excited to have him joining us. All right, Daniel Sneed from Dallas United Rowing Club in Texas. Daniel worked primarily with Coach Stratton. I've been getting to know him a little bit now that he's here on campus. He met with Josh at the U.S. Rowing Nationals last summer, and even though he didn't come up for a visit, Marist was a school that for him just kind of kept popping up on his search. And so we were like the bad penny that wouldn't go away. And finally he gave in and decided to join us. So we're excited to have Daniel. Obviously Texas, a great target area for the college, for regional diversity. And we're pumped to have him here joining us. All right. Ian Sondhoff. Ian is from Saratoga Springs, Saratoga Rowing Association. Again, one of the earlier guys that we acquired in the recruiting process. We had Ian come for a visit last fall, and he kind of fell in love with the place. Ian was the stroke seat of the Saratoga Springs, or the SRA Varsity 8 this past spring. Who had a nice little run both at Youth Nationals and at the Scholastic Nationals. So he's almost a classic Marist athlete, a very medium size. He's 6 foot, 175 pounds. He's not a lightweight, and he's not a true heavyweight. He's going to be a great utility man. He's pretty strong in stroke seat, decent sculler. So there's a lot of potential for him to be in a bunch of different roles on the team. Okay, we've got Matteo Spain, who is the second of the 2 Seton Hall prep rowers that we got last year. And Matteo, we actually signed first before Charlie. Matteo came to visit, had a great visit here with our class, and again, you know, kind of kept talking with everybody. Was a part of this this big group that all came to visit at once. Matteo, you know, port side, starboard side, you know, a little bit of utility man, can do a little bit of both. He can do some sculling. You know, he's a great size. He's going to end up being kind of a can sit anywhere, do anything, powerhouse athlete for us. So we're excited to have him joining us. Both him and Charlie have shown up in great shape. And so we're excited to have that connection with Seton Hall and to see what both of those guys are going to bring to our team. Julius Stratton, who is Coach Josh Stratton's son. Julius looked at a bunch of different schools last year for a bunch of different things. We were really happy to be able to find him a home here at Marist. I think the more he looked around, the more he realized the different things that Marist had to offer. Julius has received a special scholarship in the history department, where he's planning on being involved in history and education in a 5-year master's track for that school. And the juice, as we call him, is he's probably a higher potential athlete than he gives himself credit for. You can tell from the picture, he's got these really long limbs. And he could be a fantastic rower. We've got to get some meat on his bones, but we're definitely looking forward to working with him. Julius is a fanatical NBA basketball fan. So we'll be having to beat him away from the sports betting with a stick, but we're pumped to have him working with us, and he's doing a great job with the team so far. Jack Taddy. Jack comes from Weehawken, and he rowed at the Nereid Rowing Club, where he met Ryan Lillis, class of 2028. Ryan has since moved on to coaching at the collegiate level, but worked with a bunch of athletes there on getting in contact with Marist. And Jack ended up being a really great find. On paper, 5'10", 170 pounds. He was a smaller guy for us, but he's an extremely competitive rower. We've already been able to tell since we got him on the water that he pushes himself really hard. He pushes really hard on the erg, and just a really ambitious athlete. So we're excited to see what he can bring to the table for us. Jack was on the podium this past spring at the rowing nationals in the coxless 4. So he has some great competitive experience at a pretty high level. Austin Thomas came from Devon Prep in the Philly area. Austin is another big guy, high potential. As we talked with Austin, he comes from a small team. He hasn't spent a lot of time sweep rowing. In fact, he had never swept until he arrived here at Marist, and he's been doing a really fantastic job of picking up sweep rowing, and very hard worker. He's already in the top 5 to 10 athletes on the erg. And so we're looking forward to seeing what Austin will bring to the table for us. I would say his demeanor is a good soldier. He's a quiet, hard worker, which there's usually not enough of on a rowing team. Liam Ventresca, another coxswain. Liam rowed at the Pomfret School. I got in touch with Liam very early in the process, actually. During his junior year, he and I began chatting and kind of talking about some of his tapes from coxing and what it would look like to row at Marist. And I think Liam looked at a bunch of different schools, but as time went on, it seemed more and more like Marist was going to be a great fit for him. So we're pumped to have him here. He's involved in the fashion design school, which is a pretty rare major on the team, and definitely unique at Marist. And so excited for him to be involved in that and bring his experience with rowing to the team. Noah Wright. I think he's the last one on my list here. Noah is from Virginia, and he is the brother of our coxswain, Matthew Wright, from the class of 2026. So Noah was one of the last guys we signed. I think he was a little bit I don't know if he was resistant to row with Matthew, but like any brother, I think he wanted to go out and do his own thing. And so I think a lot of our recruitment process with him was, talking about the different opportunities at Marist that were, different from what Matthew is involved in on campus. Noah's a fantastic athlete. He's a big guy. He's going to be really strong. We've already been playing around with him in stroke seat actually a little bit, even though he's on starboard side. And yeah, he's math and economics. We love our math majors. Smart kid, and we're excited to see what he's going to bring to the table for us as well. And it's also nice to have a little family element here. So that is the end of our little presentation. I want to thank everyone for stopping in and meeting our freshmen. We're excited for a really great season, and I just wanted to encourage everyone again to sign up for the Alumni Day. It's a great time. There's an alumni row. There's a nice dinner. All of our families and parents of athletes are welcome to attend. And I will be getting back with another presentation next week. We'll be announcing our fall season and a little bit of a preview of the fall as far as the performance of the team and kind of how we see selection going and that sort of thing. So thanks again for stopping by, and go Red Foxes.